Professor Gergana PETKOVA. She is a professor of Japanese literature and culture at Sofia University, St. Clement, Ohridski. She works in the fields of Japanese ethnography and folklore, classical Japanese language and literature, gender studies, methodology of foreign language. She has studied in Sofia and Zurich and has conducted research and training from the International Research Center for Japanese Studies, Nichibuken Seiji University, Soka University.
Thank you, Professor Ohridski, and it is very nice to see in the background the campus of Seiji University, where for the first time in my life, I got to know the wisdom of Japanese culture by studying Japanese folktales and Japanese ethnography at the Institute of Folklore and at the Institute for Global Studies. And it is indeed that keyword that you used, the coexistence of all living and non-living in our world is so important, and we need to cherish this coexistence, to realize it and to cherish it. And that is why I would like to go on in that direction, because it is true that from the Japanese folklore, I learned so many things about Japanese way of thinking, of how Japanese people live together with each other and with the nature that surrounds them. It is no surprise to anyone if I say that Japan is one of the countries in the world that knows most types of calamities and natural disasters, be it a tsunami or earthquakes, volcanoes, typhoons, earthslides, and so on and so on. And it is possibly true to think that it is this reality in which Japanese people have lived for hundreds and thousands of years, which created their national spirit, their way of thinking, and of course, it shaped their culture. And as an academic, as a representative of academia, I always think, where is the difference between the theory and the practice? And for me personally, it is very important to bring theory into practice. So when we speak about Japanese wisdom, and especially good management in times of troubles, of times of disasters, I think it's very important to consider what we, the Bulgarians or the whole world, can learn from this experience or from those models. And just to make it more vivid into the minds of people who are listening to us today, let us all imagine the reality of Japanese people, that reality that Japanese people live in. So imagine that you have 365 days in the year. And if not every day, maybe every week or every month or once a year, you have at least one very, very serious disaster. And this disaster will so much affect your family that it will put at risk your beloved children. It will put at risk your very, very dear parents. It will put at risk, of course, your belongings, because the house you're living in tomorrow may not exist. Tomorrow, the house with everything inside it, like your fashionable clothes or your computer with all your images and memories and work and so on, all that might disappear just in a second. And then imagine, how would you think about reality if this is the reality you live in? Won't you start cherishing the day that you live? Won't you start cherishing the people that you live with? Because tomorrow you or the person next to you may no longer exist. Won't you cherish your dreams and put your efforts into making the most of today, making the most of everything that we have today. And when you start thinking that way, you also start to realize how much you depend on the surroundings, on the nature, of course, but how much you depend on the people next to you. Because if your house is down due to an earthslide or due to a flood or due to an earthquake, your neighbors, your friends will come to help you. And you know that next year, when their house is down, you will go and help them. And this is a certain way of thinking about coexistence and unity and living together with, as Professor Ohridski said, all living and non-living coexist with all that. And the reason I chose to, from all the kaleidoscope of Japanese ethnographic themes and Japanese folklore, the topic that I chose to speak about today is related to this coexistence together in a team, because what I found applicable to our very different, in a certain way, reality in Bulgaria might be probably this ability to coexist and co-work together in order to overcome the disasters. And I think that today's and tomorrow's event is just an example of all that, because in a year where when the world is if stopped, academia, education really is with a big question mark, where are we heading and what are we doing? And are we teaching at all? Are we educating people from now on in this, let's say, hybrid environment? We decided, the team of Japanese Studies Department, together with our colleagues in Japan and the friends of Bulgarian and Japan, we decided to share our experience and to start to look ahead, because disasters have ever existed and they will continue to exist. We might overcome pandemic of COVID, but it will be something else that will come next year. And if we start learning from the Japanese how we overcome together these difficulties, I think maybe we will find some very, very useful models in Japanese culture. And when I say that, I am truly convinced that it is possible, because it is true that the people, the teachers, the students, the researchers at Japanese Studies Department, they are very much affected by Japanese culture. And they very much do what they do in a combination between the best that they have from Bulgarian culture and the best that they have learned from Japanese culture. And I think that if we can learn from Japan and apply it in Bulgarian realities in times of disasters and pandemic, I think that this is a model we can all learn from Japan and apply it in our everyday life.
Can soft power cure?
I saw it on the slide of Professor Ohridski. It was Mononoke Hime, the film, the movie of Hayao Miyazaki, and it was written, Ikiro, let's live. Let's live. So we can live and we should live.